The history of Russia has several major periods, such as the Kievan Rus, the Moscow-Rus period, the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, the Russian Federation. And each of these periods was full of various specific events. And like elsewhere, there was tourism development in Russia during these periods. And this history is also very specific. In this video, we are going to follow the milestones of the history of tourism development in Russia. Russia has long remained a mysterious country for a foreign traveler, and its people were rarely to be found on the roads of Europe. In the old Russian states, the first journeys were dictated by the informative, commercial, political, and religious purposes. In the 10th century, Princess Olga of Kiev ruled Kievan Rus. She tried to spread Christianity over the ancient Rus. And she was the first Rus saint in the Orthodox Church. In the middle of the 10th century, she visited Byzantium. It was the first official political trip and was very important. And with Christianity, the tradition of pilgrimage came to Russia. The first destinations for pilgrimage were Palestine, Jerusalem, the Mount Athos, and in Russia, Optina Pusty, Sergiev Posad, and other famous monasteries. In the middle of the 15th century, a merchant, Athanasius Nikitin, made a so-called journey beyond the three seas. It was made with the purpose of extension of the markets. It was the first strictly commercial, non-religious trip. Nikitin visited the Crimea, the Caucasus, India, and Persia. Besides, he provided a story, a journey beyond the three seas, which was the first Russian literary work to depict a trip lyrically. Prior texts were pilgrimage texts, very strict and dry, depicting a trip to the holy sites in a specific manner. Tsar Peter I visited Europe several times, at the end of the 17th century and the beginning of the 18th century. During his trips, he studied sciences, culture, and mastered the secret of different crafts. It was with his support that Russian merchants started to develop the markets of the Western countries. And it was from the time of Peter I when the tradition of the educational journeys of young people originated. Empress Catherine II also traveled extensively over Russia and Europe. She developed the fashion for traveling, which had been introduced by Peter the Great. For example, Catherine II opened for Russian travelers the Imatra waterfalls in Finland, which she visited at the end of the 18th century. Let's check for the other milestones of tourism development in Russia. In 1714, the first public museum, the Kunstkamera, opened in St. Petersburg. 1777 can be considered the beginning of organized tourism, when the newspaper Moscow News published the plan how to take a trip to foreign lands. In 1799 was published the first Russian guidebook, a brief historical essays and sightseeing of St. Petersburg. Opening of the first travel agencies in the second half of the 19th century is also very important. Among the first ones, we can mention the travel company of Leopold Lipson, opened in 1885 in St. Petersburg. The company offered 4 travel programs, 2 to Italy, 1 to Finland and Sweden, and a great tour to the east for 120 days. The first phase of the development of tourism in Russia is characterized by attention to spa recreation. Peter I started the exploration of mineral water sources. And by the end of the 17th century, the Caucasian mineral waters became the basis for the development of the spa industry in the Russian Empire. In the late 19th century, mountain tourism started to develop actively in Russia. Thus, in the second half of the 19th century, the favorable conditions for the development of tourism infrastructure in Russia were formed due to the development of the railway network, construction of the hotels and restaurants. The First World War and the Socialist Revolution affected greatly the geography of traveling and destroyed completely the existing system of tourism service in Russia. And the Soviet period of the tourism development started. So we have studied purposes of travel in ancient Rus, facts about tourism development in the 9th and 10th centuries, what the journey beyond the three seas was, and facts about tourism development in the 17th and 18th centuries.